Hi, this is Joseph Tan here from goodmonday.com. In the quest of achieving strategic goals in many organizations, there is the obvious emphasis on business processes. Now, business process is essential because this is a track that makes sure that we are compliant with operations, that makes sure we are as efficient as possible in order to reach our strategic quest, our strategic goals. However, there is another track that is often neglected, and this other track that I'd like to focus on, it's the cultural track. The cultural processes is often neglected in the quest to achieve strategic goals. Now, business process is often the most obvious track to focus on because it is more visible, because it has to do with the measurements. So the straightforward approach to meeting strategic goals is to set the KPIs, is to make sure that you have your balanced scorecard in place, and to make sure you have the right tools to keep track of your progress. Now, this is important, but it is not enough, because you may have the right tools and you might have the right methodology, but if the behavior and the mindset of your employees remain the same, then the motivational factor is lacking. I have come across organizations where they have put very detailed and robust measurements in place, but at the end of the day, good people still leave, because as far as talented employees are concerned, it is not just only about the numbers, it is how the numbers are communicated. It is about the experience that they go through in the company. It is about how they are treated. It is about how united the company it is. It is about how they interact with one another. So in addition to measurement, there must be the motivational element as well. That is why not only business process is something that we all need to keep our eyes on, cultural process is another area that we definitely must keep in view if we are serious in reaching our strategic goals. So in your quest to meet your strategic goals in an accelerated manner, there are two platforms that you need to keep in view. Number one is leadership clarity, and number two is alignment in your organizational development. Let me go through one at a time, starting with clarity. Let's assume that R1 here is the results that you are achieving currently, and R2 is the new strategic results you want to achieve. So R1, the current results that you achieve, comes from the current culture that you have in the organization. Now what's culture? Culture is the culmination of the consistent way that every employee in the organization think, act and behave. So the way the organization think and act and behave presently is what gives rise to the current results that you achieve. But in order to achieve the results of the future, it requires a new set of thinking and a new set of behavior, and let's call that C2. Here's where it gets interesting, because if the organization continue to think and act in the same way as it has always been doing, and you extrapolate the consequence into the future, you will find that the current way of thinking and behaving is not sufficient to meet the strategic goal of the future. There is what we call here a cultural gap, a gap between the desired results and the culture that remains unchanged. That means the very first step of organizational leaders is that after they have defined what the new strategic goals are, there needs to be clarity. Clarity in terms of what what do we need to do to address this gap? To address this gap between achieving, between what we are getting now and what we want to achieve in the future. Because if we continue to think and act in the same way as we are now, we are not going to achieve the future results that we need. So we need clarity as to what we can do to address this cultural gap, because the new results R2 can only be generated by C2, but what we are getting in the future is only C1. So what do we need to do to address this cultural gap? Or else the new strategic results will just only be a wish list. Now, what is needed to address the cultural gap is not S.O.P, it's what I called S.O.B. What does S.O.B stands for? S.O.B stands for Standards of Behavior. We cannot take it for granted that employees would know what to do once you set the new strategic goals, because human nature is such that employees would want to remain in their comfort zone. This is their comfort zone, C1, doing the same things over and over again, because this is what I am familiar with. I will not go and stretch myself unless, of course, we as leaders make very clear what are the standards of behavior that is required. First of all, we need to identify the current state of behaviors. What are the current state of key behaviors? Let's call it KB1, that is holding us back. Then secondly, we need to project future consequential behavior and ask ourselves this question: what is the future key behaviors that are required in order for us to reach our new strategic goals? Never assume that employees know what the standards of behavior are. We need to spell them out as clearly as possible. Is it that we want the employees to be more agile? Is it we want the employees to be more innovative? Or is it we want the employees to be more customer centric? Now, each one of these need to be spelled out clearly with supporting observational traits and measurements, so that when it is spelled out clearly, every employee then have clarity not only in terms of the results that needs to be achieved, but the S.O.B that needs to be in place, that is the standards of behavior, because you need both clarity of behavior and clarity of numbers before we can meet this cultural gap. So we have seen that in order for us to accelerate the achievement of strategic goals, you need the clarity of a standards of behaviors. Now, in addition to having S.O.B, the standard of behaviors, we need to have an alignment of C.E.P. Now, what is C.E.P? We need to have consistent employee experiences. Consistent employee experiences, that is C.E.E. My apologies. Consistent employee experiences, because as far as the employee is concerned, it's not just about setting the standard. There need to be an alignment in terms of the experiences we provide to our employees, because consistent experiences will reinforce the belief that these behaviors are worth following. So it's not just what you communicate to your employees, it's what your employees experience on a day-to-day basis. For example, you could set an S.O.B that says that, well, we are a company where the standard of behavior is that we are always paying attention and we are always listening to our employees. But on a day-to-day experiential basis, well, the managers are seldom around. In fact, they are hardly to be found whenever the employees need a hearing ear or someone to have discussion with. So while at the same time you're having standards of behavior that says we're always listening, but the consistent experiences of the employees is that managers are seldom around and there's no one listening to me at all. So there is a discrepancy between standards and experience, and when that happens, the cultural process breaks down. So you need to focus on alignment of experiences in addition to setting the standards. Now, consistent employee experiences requires the 3 R's. First are rituals. What are the rituals that we have set in place that shows that we are serious in meeting the clarity on the standard of behaviors? Now, if one of the standards is innovation, then we better have rituals for brainstorming, rituals where ideas are accepted, rituals where employee opinion are heard and considered. So the first R is rituals. Secondly is recognition. Let's face it, people are motivated to exhibit a certain behavior if they are recognized for it. One of the main complaints of employees is that they are severely underappreciated. So please recognize the behaviors that you have set as a standard. Now the third R is to reprimand. Now most managers are very comfortable in giving rewards, but they are not so comfortable in reprimanding non-performers. Now if we don't take the third step to reprimand non-performers, please consider the message that you are sending out to those who are performing well. If no action is taken against non-performance, the type of culture that you're inculcating is this: we tolerate mediocrity, and the high performers will get the message. If I get paid the same as the person next to me who does less than me, then why should I do more? So you must discriminate. You must discriminate performance. You do not discriminate in terms of how you view the individual, but performance need to be discriminated, or else we cannot reach the strategic goals. And when we discriminate performance, it is against standards that are clearly set. And if we don't discriminate against performance and take action against non-performers, then the performers will get the message that their contribution is not valued, and if this is kept long enough, they will look for greener pastures elsewhere. So when we don't reprimand, we are actually shooting ourselves in the foot, and talented people will get the message almost immediately. So are you serious in meeting your strategic goals? Fine. Please have your business process in place, but do not forget the other leg here, the other track here that you need to take care of, and that's the cultural process. You need to have clarity of standards of behavior, and you need to align the employee experiences so that the rituals, the recognition, and also the reprimanding part is consistent throughout the organization. If you do this, you have both the measurement and the motivation to bring you to achieve success and high performance that is sustainable. Why is it sustainable? Because it has the cultural element in place. If we do not have the cultural element in place, and if we just train our employees for competency or for business, you might be training them for your competitors, because the culture is not strong enough to hold them back. Think about it. This is Joseph Tan here from goodmonday.com. Thanks for watching.